Alright, so you guys saw the title of this video. You know where this is going. The conversation's going to be a little bit morbid, but I think it's important that we have it. I think it's important that we talk about what might happen later on in the story. The Straw Hats eventually fighting an enemy that they, maybe bite off more than they could chew, and that they don't end up victorious at the end of the day. And I'm not here to just drudge up really sad or depressing moments in the One Piece story just to warrant a reaction from you, and I'm certainly not here to make fun of those said moments. I mean, I have never made fun of a really emotional, impactful moment in the One Piece story. Is that right, Ace? Yeah, right. He needs that like a hole in the chest, am I right? Okay, but let's flash back a bit. Let's go back to the time in the story when the Straw Hat crew was just, for more or less, completely annihilated. And they weren't really annihilated, but I want you to go back to the moment when you actually first read that chapter. And you didn't know what was going to happen, and you didn't know what Kuma was trying to do. The moment when the Straw Hats were just facing enemy after enemy on Sabaody. And it was such a contrast, because it's like, man, we had just rescued Kami, and we had just, we just met Rayleigh, the former first mate of the Roger Pirates, and he's going to help code our ship, and everything seems great. And then all of a sudden, they just get butt-fucked, one after another, by strong enemy after strong enemy. They all just barely managed to defeat a pacifista. They put all of their energy, all of their abilities into taking out the PX-4, and they managed it, but they were wiped at the end of it. But then, here comes Kizaru, here comes Sentomaru, here comes PX-1, here comes Bartholomew Kuma, and it's just one after another. And yeah, you did have Rayleigh step in and delay Kizaru, but Sentomaru, he knew hockey, and he was wrecking Luffy's shit up. You had freaking the PX, who they just threw all their power trying to defeat one of them, and now here's another one, fully armored and ready to go. And then you have Kuma showing up, and Kuma was the one that eventually saved them. But think about the emotional impact of that chapter, where the Straw Hats are just eliminated, one after another, just popping off. And the anime did it really well, be it for a couple of animation errors. You all know how that goes. But, the animation did a really good job with that arc, the end of that arc, I should say. The sunset over the Sabaody archipelago and the bubbles popping as each one of the Straw Hats is sent off. And then you have that narrator's voice at the very end, man. On this day in the Sabaody archipelago, the Straw Hat crew was completely and utterly annihilated. And it's like, holy shit, because we weren't used to that at that point. We weren't used to, like, yeah, one or two of the Straw Hats getting into a fight, they might not end up all that, for the better afterwards. They might get banged up. And we've even seen, a few Straw Hats lose before. But then, not all of them together, not their full fucking fighting force all together pulling their energy, and they still get fucking just beat down. So it was a pretty powerful scene, and if it happened once, it might happen again. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. There are people that think, and I get asked this, relatively often, Matt, do you think a Straw Hat's going to die? Do you think there's going to be a Straw Hat death in the story? That's a loaded goddamn question. I don't really feel comfortable answering that, because I could really see this going both ways. I could see Oda wanting to do that nearing closer to the climax of the story, as like to really drive in the power of it, and be like, this is for keepsies here. But then you also have to remember the same thing, like, that a lot of other people forget a lot of times about it, and that One Piece is very, profitable and stuff, and there's a marketing aspect here, and killing off one of the Straw Hats, killing off one of your main characters, I can think maybe a few editors at Shueisha and Shonen Jump might have something, the higher-ups might have something to say about that. And it doesn't even matter what, I mean, you might have your favorite Straw Hats and your least favorite Straw Hats, you could be like, you could be like a certain other reviewer and really hate fucking Chopper. Chopper really can't die. I don't think the merchandising alone would, the merchandising department at Shueisha would not let him die, okay? So there's other ways you could look at that. I personally right now don't think a Straw Hat's going to die, and that's not what this video is about. We're not here to discuss, which one of the Straw Hats are going to meet a bloody end. We're here to discuss, will there ever be a time when the full force of the Straw Hats is not enough, they do get beaten down, and it's not the same that what happened on Sabaody. It's not like they get saved by Kuma, because yeah, Kuma did save them. But it's very clear Oda drove in, like, yeah, he did save them, but, if he wasn't there, they were still fucked. They were still exhausted from their fight with PX4, and even if you disregard Kizaru, because he was fighting with, Rayleigh, if you just disregard him, you still have another fully armored Pacifista, PX1, and then you have Sentomaru, who knew how to use armament hockey, that was just slamming Luffy into fucking trees. Okay? I'm just saying, it didn't look good. But yeah, Kuma saved them. But that's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen where they get beaten down and it's like, well, they were saved at the last minute by another person, okay? And then we're also going to discuss what that enemy could be, potentially. One thing that this is just something from me, but I thought about this early on. Right after the time skip, you have the Straw Hats training, getting stronger, coming up with new techniques, coming up with new moves. And it's like, for a moment after a time skip, especially a time skip like One Piece, because One Piece was running for like 600 goddamn chapters before we got to that time skip. But after the time skip a little bit, you have to have the Straw Hats really show to be like stronger than they were. You can't have them having too many troubles with fighting if they've been spending 2 years training. So there's like a grace period after a time skip where the Straw Hats are more or less invincible. And that has to be the case, so we as an audience really understand how much they grew. This is made very clear in the Fishman Island arc. Like, you get moments in the Fishman Island arc where if Zoro wanted to, he could have killed Hody. In fact, he sort of almost did. You get a moment where Hody, the big boss of the arc, fights against Zoro, and Zoro just fucking just cuts him down underwater, and he could have easily killed him. A lot of the problems with the Fishman Island arc arose from the different, social climate, and the cultural differences between fishmen and humans, and how, like, Jinbei was like, Luffy, don't fight Hody, because if a human defeats a fishman, then Luffy could easily defeat Hody in this form. It's just like, he's like, you can't fight him, because if you do, then that'll look bad for fishmen, because a human beat the shit out of a fishman. So that's where a lot of the conflict arose in the Fishman Island arc. But in terms of battle strength, the Straw Hats owned. And then we finally get to the climax of the Fishman Island arc in the plaza, and the Straw Hats, sure enough, they have no problems. Usopp, Chopper, Frankie, Brook, they just fucking solo all the fights they're in. They don't get, if any injuries they get, they're very minor, and they just cream the new Fishman Pirates, and we get to see how badass they are. Punk Hazard, pretty much the same thing. Punk Hazard, you have like handicaps being issued, like the body switching thing. So it's like, oh shit, Sanji's super powerful now, but Nami's in control of his body, and she doesn't know how to fight too well, so he's gonna get beaten up a little. So yeah, you have issues like that where there's like a handicap in place. It wasn't until Dressrosa, when we got there, that it was actually like the Straw Hats were now evenly matched, and the fights actually felt like, oh, we don't know where this is gonna go. Frankie's fight against Senor Pink. Frankie got pretty banged up after that. His eye, he's with fucking Terminator eye going on here. You have the whole shit with Usopp. You had Sugar's power, which was like fucking up other people there. The battle between Law and Luffy against Doflamingo and Treble, that was a hard fought one. Probably the one that had the easiest fight was Zoro and Pika, but that wasn't really because Zoro was super weak to Pika. It was just that Pika's abilities were so annoying that it was like trying to fight him, trying to actually get a hit off on him was so hard, but Zoro managed to defeat him fairly easily. He didn't actually get a lot of injuries in that fight. But Zoro had it easy, and then you have the fight with Luffy and Doflamingo, which pushed Luffy to some limits there. So that's like the first arc we actually got some serious powers, and I think from here on out, we're really gonna get that. We're gonna get moments where the Straw Hats are gonna get into fights that are gonna feel more like fights. Like that grace period after the time skip, that's over now. We can start looking realistically into the Straw Hats getting damaged. Now, we sort of got that in the last arc, but you have to understand, in the Totland arc, you have to understand, though, that the goal of going to Totland and the Whole Cake Island, the goal was not, we're going to storm in there and defeat Big Mom and wreck her shit and take out all of her subordinates. The goal was to get Sanji. And yeah, Luffy did get the shit beat out of him by Big Mom's crew. but it was because he was like so obstinate. He's like, I'm gonna sit right here and wait for Sanji to come back. And then, you know, Big Mom's crew was like, oh, he's sitting right over there. And then they came and beat the shit out of him. And that's how that went down there. You had the issue in the forest with Cracker, where Luffy still did win, but it was a little bit more of a fight than what he had with, like, against, you know, Hody or somebody like that. You know, it was a legitimate fight there where Luffy was kind of a little bit worn out by the end of it. So the goal here, though, is just to get Sanji and get the hell out of Dodge. And even then, you still have Beige's crew, the Fire Tank Pirates. You have them helping out the Straw Hats. And then possibly the Vinsmoke family might be helping too, okay? So it's not like it's just the Straw Hats against Big Mom, right? But next arc, after the little mini arc with Reverie, next arc, we're going to have Wano. And that, I think, is going to get a little bit more intense there, because we're going to have, if it really does work the way I think it's going to work, where, you know, Sanji gets back with the crew, with Luffy and Nami and Chopper, and then they sail to Wano, and then the Straw Hats regroup, and then they get into fights on Wano, that's when we have to maybe start worrying that, hey, maybe the Straw Hats aren't going to all win their fights. Maybe they have to team up to win, or maybe one of them is going to get more injuries or something like that, might be taken out. We might have to worry about that. And then I think that sets up the stage for, like, later on, when it's like, okay, now we're dealing with the big opponents. We're dealing with the fucking Yonko. Alright? I don't think, from a storytelling perspective, if Oda really wants to go about it that way, if he really wants to go with the Straw Hats straight up taking on a Yonko, I think it would make more sense for them to be just decimated, just like not killed, but just made very clear that, like, I'm Kaido, you know, you might have trained for 2 years, you don't stand a fucking shot. And then Kaido wrecks them. Or Blackbeard. We'll get to Blackbeard in just a moment. But I think that would make more sense for them to get devastated to the point where it's like, we don't stand a chance. And the reason why I would prefer that is because, number one, it would maybe, you know, for just from the emotional standpoint, you know, you want people to read your manga, and I don't know about you, but if I read a chapter of One Piece where all the Straw Hats were, like, laid out, like, you know, that was the climax, I'd be like, holy shit! Wait, what's this? 3-week break. Shit, well then, I'm gonna read it. Because, you know, that's gonna happen. But, you know, so from a writing perspective, that would be pretty good. I mean, you guarantee that, like, everybody would be at the magazine stands in the next week or two to read the next chapter of One Piece after that went down. Just like they were after the events of Sabaody, right? But just from that other's perspective, it shows the, you know, one of the themes of the story, you know, like, you can get back up and you keep on fighting. The same thing would happen with Luffy. After Luffy, you know, he lost his crew, and then he lost his brother, and you have the emotional moment with Jinbei where Jinbei's beating the shit out of Luffy, and he's like, what do you still have? And Luffy's like, I still have my friends, yes! So it could be a situation where they all get beaten down and they're wrecked, but then they get back up, and they start healing, and they're like sitting around and be like, well, you know what, guys? At least we're all still here. We might have lost the fight, we might have got our asses kicked, but at least we're together this time, and we can heal, and we can try again, and that could be a good message. And then you can maybe, that would be a plot device to bring in the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, or all the allies that the Straw Hat had over the course of the story. This is why I bring up this could not be for quite some time. It's already been stated that the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, that's going to be part of, like, a really big, and Oda's already confirmed this when they introduced the Grand Fleet, like, they're going to be part of a really big event later on down the line, but don't worry about that right now. But yeah, that's the case. And I'm not saying this is going to happen in Wano. I'm not saying Kaido's going to be the person. It could very easily be Blackbeard. And I think I would prefer Blackbeard to Kaido. Very much so. Just because, of course, you have Blackbeard, who is one of the more major antagonists of the One Piece story. That's a good question. Who do you feel, personally, is the true antagonist of the One Piece universe? Because you have a lot of people on that end. You could pick the world government as just generally the antagonist. You can pick Blackbeard. You can pick Akainu, because he's the one that killed Ace, so you know Luffy's going to want to fight him. You know, so you could view him as the final opponent. Then again, we could always have a twist at the last minute and be like, Shanks was the villain all along! Like, oh, shit! Okay, well, I guess I'll find, like that kind of shit. But yeah, I think Blackbeard would make more sense, because Luffy and Blackbeard have had some confrontations already. The Blackbeard pirates, very much like the Straw Hat pirates, they started out small, a force that not a lot of people really were worried about. That, you know, even before Blackbeard joined up with the warlords, he didn't have a bounty or anything, so the world government really didn't know they existed, or they didn't pay much attention to them. But then, like the Straw Hats, you know, they started out with a very small crew, and then they got really reputable. Now, Blackbeard has kind of become, like, go figure, an anti-Whitebeard pirate crew. So Blackbeard now has his main crew working as, like, captains for his different fleets. And he's like Admiral Blackbeard, you know, so he has like this power, and then you have Shiryu, who's in the command of the second ship, and Lafitte, who's in command of like the fifth ship or the fifth unit, very similar to Whitebeard's battle units, right? And I think they also said something about like there's 10 captains. They got like the 10 Titanic captains, and Burgess is one of them, and Shiryu, and then you of course you have the other members like Lafitte and Alvario Pizarro and Katrina Devon and Vasco Shaw. Those are going to be like the 10 Titanic captains. Oh my god, I just imagine Vasco Shot trying to command a fucking fleet of ships. I wonder how that's gonna go. Okay, guys, let's go over there and get some booze. Topa, topa, topa. Well, sir, that's a fucking hurricane. I don't care. We're gonna go get some booze. And he just passes out drunk. Yeah, maybe that's not a smart move to put that guy in charge of a fucking fleet of captains. Well, whatever. It's Blackbeard. Okay. Remember, I mean, you had the Payback War, right? You had the Whitebeard pirates, you know, they were decimated at Marineford, they lost their captain, but then a year after that, you had, now you keep in mind, Marco, you know, was the captain of this point, and they had a whole year to plan this attack and go after the Blackbeard pirates for retribution for what they did to Whitebeard. And so, you know Marco is not stupid. Neither is Jozu, neither is Vista, neither are all like the higher commanders of the Whitebeard crew. You know they planned this shit out. Marco was getting the Whitebeard pirates together and like, okay, we're going to plan our attack against Blackbeard. We're going to get him back for what he did. I don't think Marco would be stupid enough to be like, let's just charge and attack him for what he did out of pure revenge, 100%. I'm pretty sure they would have planned this out. And they still got it. They got, I think they, as they put it, crushingly defeated. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. Granted, they don't have Whitebeard anymore, but Marco is still a badass. Josu's still pretty cool, you know, and all the other members. And I don't know if they got involved with, like, the allies of the Whitebeard pirates got involved at all. I would assume they would. But that proves that the Blackbeard pirates are really powerful. So there could be a moment in the story when the Straw Hats begin to confront the Blackbeard pirates, and you think this is going to be it. This is going to be the moment where Luffy and the Straw Hats defeat the Blackbeard pirates, and they manage to win. And they manage to defeat him finally. And then it might look like it's going good, but then they just get decimated. They get wrecked. The Blackbeard pirates are like looming over the Straw Hats, just defeated, you know. And then they survive the encounter. Or if you think that some of them's going to die, maybe one of them dies, they get up, and that's when the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, they come in and realize that even though they're super powerful and they have, like, you know, they've been pretty good up till this point, Blackbeard just has greater manpower, or that his devil fruit ability, or the true ability would be revealed at that point. Like, the Straw Hats get defeated, and the Blackbeard reveals like what he really did to take Whitebeard's power or something. I made a video about that, how Blackbeard could potentially store up like an armory of devil fruit powers and just like give them out to anybody and take them back and transfer them like easily. Like that's a theory I have going on here. And then after we find out about that, the Straw Hats like, oh shit, we have no chance, and they just get wrecked. And then, you know, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet comes in and they have a bigger battle against them. It's like this time it's more even, and that actually comes out with the Straw Hats prevailing. I mean, you have to understand the basic elements of storytelling. I mean, the villains can't win. I mean, that's just not how it goes. I mean, I'm sorry, but Blackbeard is eventually going to lose. But I want the Straw Hats to earn it. And if the Straw Hats just go in knowing what the Blackbeard pirates have at their disposal, knowing that how much manpower they have, and they manage to beat back the Whitebeard pirates so easily, I wouldn't feel right if, even with their increase in strength over the time skip and all the stuff that they've learned since then, if the Straw Hats just go in and then just clean up shop with the Blackbeard pirates and come out of it. And, either way, they're going to be beaten pretty badly. I mean, it's not like they would just go in there and defeat the Blackbeard pirates. But I don't know. I would feel weird if Luffy just went in and beat the shit out of Blackbeard and then just walked out all bloody and covered in bruises, and he's got freaking, Blackbeard's, cloak or something on him, and he's like, there, I beat him. Problem solved. Oh, that's another thing, too. I wanted to bring... This kind of warrants an own separate video, but I'll just bring it up here just to whet your appetites. You think Luffy's gonna straight up kill Blackbeard? Luffy doesn't kill people. That's a major part of the story, how Luffy doesn't kill people, because he feels like killing people, their dreams end right there, and killing them, and not killing them, that just squanders their dreams, but they get a second chance to give it a shot. That's what Luffy feels. And it's a shonen, so, we're not going to get really a lot of bloodshed here. From the last chapter, you see how Oda had to sort of censor it from what happened last chapter, but Luffy might straight up kill Blackbeard. Or Akainu. I feel like he would have a lot of animosity toward Blackbeard because of Blackbeard that Ace got captured. Akainu was the one that killed him, but Blackbeard was really the one that set all of this in motion. And not only did he set all this in motion, he set all this in motion so that he could kill Whitebeard and take his power and just wreck everyone's shit. So even though Blackbeard was not the one to personally kill Ace, and that's the case, I still think Luffy really does hate Blackbeard to the bottom of his heart. Maybe he hates him a little bit because there are a disturbingly high amount of similarities between Blackbeard and Luffy. If they're not even that hard to look for. Blackbeard is a dreamer. He's like, the age of pirates will never end. You always gotta continue your dreams. Kind of what Luffy is standing for, just a little bit, and there's some other stuff too you can look into. But Luffy might have that kind of like, oh man, I'm not like you. I'm not evil like you. I'm like, yes, Luffy, I am your father. Oh wait, no, Dragon's your father. I am your mother. No, that's not true. That's impossible. Oh wait, Ivankov's a thing. That is totally possible. No. Okay, maybe that's going a little bit too far. But how Luffy might have like this like subconscious like hatred for Blackbeard because he kind of reminds him of himself. And on top of that, turned Ace in and everything like that. So the battle between Luffy and Blackbeard might actually end in Luffy having to kill him. And that would be really, for Luffy's character, for his mind after that, he'd be like, he's straight up just, not even just like killing, like, because there's been moments in the story where Luffy has obviously killed people, like knocking people off of ships and knocking people into walls and stuff, like ordinary Marines and like low-level pirates. Somebody probably got a concussion and died along the way, but he wasn't actually trying to kill him. But there might be a point with Blackbeard, like, the only way I'm going to be able to win this is to fucking kill you and end this crap once and for all. Then we get to the fight with Akainu, which, I don't know. If Luffy's gonna fight... I don't know. If Luffy's gonna be the one to take on Blackbeard as, like, the final battle, the final, battle of One Piece, I don't know if I would feel comfortable with Luffy tackling Akainu either. I would like to see a battle between Luffy and Akainu, but that doesn't even have to be the quintessential battle. It might be, like, a battle between, like Shanks and Akainu, or Garp and Akainu. That would be fucking solid. Seeing a Garp fight, Garp going all out, man, that would be kick-ass. Yeah, we might get something like that. But I just wanted to bring up this idea, this possibility that someday along the lines the Straw Hats could be devastated. By who? Who could they be devastated by? What would be the nature of this defeat? What would happen afterwards? How would they get back from this defeat and defeat the enemy? I'm not gonna throw my there's gonna be a second time skip hat in the ring yet, because I don't think there will be, but that is a prevalent theory, so I thought I would bring it up. But I think it is certainly going to happen. I don't think the Straw Hats are just going to win their fights against all of the Yonko and manage to get to Raftel and no problems there. And then, of course, there's the whole thing with, like, the Raftel War possibly happening after the One Piece is discovered. Because, there's a legendary treasure that no one has ever found before. Okay, what are you going to do in that situation? Are you going to sit around and try to find it yourself, which is really hard? Or are you going to wait for somebody else to find it and then attack them because they have it? Yeah, there's going to be a big-ass One Piece Rafta war. That's going to be awesome, too. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, just comment below on what you think is the person, like the final antagonist, the final battle before Luffy in the story. I would say it's Blackbeard personally, but it could be the world government. It could be somebody else in the world government. It could be the Gorosei could be fucking baller. Who knows? I think they're just a bunch of guys hanging out, but the Gorosei, hey man, they could be a force to be reckoned with. Who knows? Who knows? Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Tekking101.